Welcome to Cinemaphile, where we showcase the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers and talk to them about their work. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar. You can listen to other interviews by going to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar at Spotify. The film is called Drowning Dry, and it literally starts with a kick to the head. Mixed martial arts competitor Lukas has just handily defeated his opponent and celebrates with his wife, child, and friends backstage, setting the scene for a nimble combination of communal bonding and looming horrors. There is so much to recommend in this film, Drowning Dry. It takes us on a journey with these two couples and their children as they go on this idyllic vacation. But what unfolds in the quiet moments, what unfolds when they're out doing what people do on a holiday, the film takes on these ominous and at times perplexing twists and turns. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention what an amazing ensemble cast this is, and it will sneak up on you. The performances here are so understated and so well thought through that it's just a joy to watch this film. Drowning Dry, we're joined today by the director, writer, as well as the cinematographer, Laurynas Bareiša. Laurynas, welcome to the program. This is a story that's very difficult to describe without giving more away than I want to, but I'm also struck by how cinematic the approach to storytelling is, and the way that you play with convention in telling the story. What inspired you?
I had like an almost tragic event with my kid, and it kind of spiraled from there. Like, how do you deal with something that's kind of could have ended really, really badly, but didn't, and then it moves on, and it happened in very, very simple circumstances, and how do you still kind of cope with something that on the face of it you don't have to with it because nothing happened, something very mundane but could have been very bad. So yeah, so from then on, I kind of started thinking. I split myself into 4 characters, changed it to drowning, and then moved on from there.
Yeah, and what makes this film so relatable to me and lands with such a powerful impact is that we've all done some version of this. The what ifs. Like we've all been in situations where things could have gone horribly wrong. If you're human, you think about that. You think about the what ifs, and in some ways certainly make more of an impression than the actual event itself.
Yeah, especially when you're a parent. I found this change when I became a parent. Because when I wasn't a parent, there were some times that were really scary, but I wasn't scared. And afterwards, I didn't get this kind of PTSD. When it happened with my kid, it was different, whole different story. Somehow you treat something that could happen to someone in your care deeply. For me, it was made more of an impact for me.
Yeah, and I would add to that, especially when it's about people who are more or less powerless to have prevented what could have happened.
Yes.
And that dynamic plays out in this film in so many different ways. It's fascinating, and this film works so beautifully because the construction and the performances by your performers in the film, the actors, who manage to understate the things that matter and overplay the things that, as the two women refer to them as their morons, in the way it's what we do. We men do these moronic things. And we do things, again, without really thinking through a lot of the ramifications of where it could go wrong. And that's beautifully illustrated in this film.
Yes, I wanted to have some characters that kind of perform their kind of maleness, perform their family position, perform their kind of image, and also when they need to communicate, they don't communicate. They're closed. When there's a moment to speak, they're kind of frozen. But when there's a moment Just when you could just hang out, you cannot shut them up. They keep talking. So there's this kind of dynamic that I see around myself. With this problems. How do you find yourself in this different changing situations that you are? You're always getting older. You always have to perform different duties, in your life. And how do you find who are you? So I think these four people are in this constant. I don't know. I imagine themselves like drowning on dry land in these relationships, but they cannot speak freely or they cannot, relax. There's always pressure, especially like these two men somehow feel pressured to perform when they could have just relaxed, put their guard down, but they can't somehow.
And one of the things about the dynamic in these relationships with their wives is that their wives would be fine with that. The wives would be absolutely fine if they didn't perform. And
Yes, of
yet,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
but when the two of them are together, and we all know this, we're men, we all know how this works. There's something about, I don't know, the dominance, there's something in our makeup that forces us because we know better, but we choose to behave this way, which is fascinating. I'm so taken by the character study here of all of the different characters and how even in the construction of the two different families. So you have Ernesta and Lucas who are the alpha male, beautiful wife, lovely, the kids. That's the sort of the idyllic situation. And then on the other side, you have a situation with Justa and Tomas, who are struggling to prove himself all the time, especially in relation to with Lucas. Even the way you shot them, there's so much in this film that is so beautifully done cinematically. Rambling on here because I appreciate not only the story and the telling of the story, but the construction of the story. So why don't we talk a little bit about your thought process in constructing the story the way that you did?
I had different mm, challenges in these two. I think there were two main decisions. The first decision is to go the non-linear way, and that was connected to, in a way, I wanted to think through this film about what is memory and what is kind of this, how do we deal with this kind of moment, And so for that, I realized that there has to be repetition to somehow distort the continuity in order to come back and change it a bit, or maybe, to give a sense of uncertainty to the viewer from some point when you don't know what the next scene is going to be. Something breaks in the film. First, there's very clear narrative, very smooth, and then something breaks, and there's uncertainty, and there's repetition, and there's this kind of relationship to what is memory and what is like emotional relationship to it, especially like traumatic memory. So that was why it was not non-linear. And the second was also connected with memory, but in a different way. I wanted the film to be shot and to be felt from a bit of a distance in order to get a perspective that it's not clearly obvious from the beginning, but it's a remembered present. This is something that you can have time and space to reflect on. So this is not present, because in the present you would have been closer to the action. Would have been in a different situation, in a different position with the camera, in different position in relation to the character. So I wanted to have this kind of more intuitive perspective for the camera in order to get some distance from the characters and make them like make the film seem more reflective towards what's happening. Even I think it kind of becomes a bit difficult in the beginning because there's no kind of maybe reference to that this is going to be a film about memory or about something that is reflected upon. But then I think it kind of merges with a first time jump. You kind of understand why everything else was shot in this kind of way, and then you move on from there. Yeah, so these are two main decisions. the way I structured the whole film cinematically. Yeah, in a sense, like what I tried to do.
Yeah, because it's a very traditional, straightforward narrative to a point, and then it isn't.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and then it's jarring. And I actually had the reaction. Now I had the luxury of watching it at home, but I actually thought, did the film did I skip somehow? Did the film did I
Yeah.
I mean I was really looking around like did some I thought it was a technical issue at the first time
Yes.
I looked at it and I thought and then, of course, I mean, you settle in. And there's another thing because you are also the cinematographer in the film, so and writer, and director. So you wear these hats, and in addition to kind of trying to sort that out on set as to how you direct and as cinematographer as well. I explore that a little bit, but you shot this film almost without any close-ups. There are just barely any close-ups. It's all kind of medium and long shots. And I thought what it did for me in watching the characters and how they interact with one another, it gave me a kind of an emotional distance between me and them, which allows me to kind of fill in the backstory or fill in the blanks as a viewer. I kind of felt like you're exploring my reaction to them by virtue of the way you shot it, because it's all medium and long. Am I correct in that assumption? That I
Yes. So that's the perspective I wanted, just to give more room for you to be there. And the only time I go to close up, it's when the characters are alone or feel alone. That's where I go into the close up.
Well, I looked. There's one. I think in the fight scene at the beginning, there's a close up, and then there's another scene with his wife Ernesta,
Yes.
where exactly. Okay, good. I was thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, because I was thinking, wow, this is it's almost a clinical dissection of the characters in these stories. And is that being fair to you?
I want the viewer to get the like this is the paradox. I think when you give a bit space, you get a clearer view. In some of the you sometimes see a person more clearly when you see all of him or maybe most of him, like and also in a relationship to what in a relation to the scene and other characters. So I think most of the time I could get emphasis by composition and the position of characters, so you still get where is the point that you have to look in, but also you get more of information, and that's what I interest me, is to give audience a chance to think and reflect their own position and their own experiences on it, because sometimes there's cinema tends to be a bit too persuasive, just putting one point of view. And I think that we have very, very different life experiences, especially, and I think I'm very much interested in tapping into the audience's own intuition and intelligence and emotional baggage, through the film, because I think there's some feelings that you cannot provide a viewer with just your own film. There has to be a connection between the film and the viewer's experience, and through that, you can tap into way more strong, way more interesting and difficult emotions for the viewer. This film also is like there are viewers who react differently to it, and some very intensely, even from my friend circle, but they had similar experiences to in their own lives, so sometimes it connects too much. So, and then I think that's what creates a dynamic in a film. You can have a film that's kind of void to some viewers. There's some viewers who wouldn't react at all to this film, but also there's a payoff. Some viewers react really intensely, and that's what I'm looking for.
And I will tell you that my connection was initially sort of visceral. Like there was enough in the story and the interaction and just kind of the story itself of these two couples. And then this sort of visceral feeling that I just kept being pulled along in it, and then eventually you settle into what I would call the more emotional involvement, the more emotional pull of the film, and that's how it struck me. I just want to quickly remind our listeners that we're speaking with Laurynas Bareiša, and he is the director, writer, and cinematographer for an incredible film called Drowning Dry. It's coming out here in Los Angeles on, I believe, July 30th, and it's being released through Dekanalog, which is a fantastic distributor. Congratulations on landing with them. The other thing that I was struck by was what a wonderfully ensemble film this is. Everyone, because of the way you shot it, everyone, I felt like there was contributions all throughout the film of the actors really making it work. I mean, I just felt that it was a true ensemble film. But again, a lot of it, some of that comes from the way you shot it, but it's also in these performances. They're all really terrific. So
Yes, I had also the thing that they gelled is something that we were hoping for, and we structured our process on like this goal of having a really close family unit because they are, you know, just together, six of them. So we started, and in order to kind of achieve that, we decided our like I had two great casting directors. One is Maria Kavtradze, she's a film director herself, and the other is Ugne Šaučiūnaitė. So Maria was more with adults and Ugne with the kids. And we started because we realized that we wanted a group. We had to start with one person and then add just to have a good connection between all of them. You know, just to start with one and find partners for. So the first character was kind of recognized that the older sister is the most difficult psychological character to find, it would be because she has the most kind of intense inner world, and we kind of had a long casting for that. We even had different set of actors when we did test scenes 1 year ago, like 2 years ago from now, and we kind of didn't find the dynamic close to what we wanted, and we changed, and then we stumbled upon Agne Kaktaitė, which on at the time she was already kind of retired from acting. She didn't act. It was her first feature film. She acted in theater when she moved on from theater. So this was her first feature film. So we kind of found her, and we were really surprised that how this could have happened, that she didn't have any roles on the screen. So and then we added two towards her. So Gelmine is her younger sister, and she's really prominent, but she's more of an influencer. But actually what connects them together is that they studied under the same theater teacher, different classes, but they have similar like academic trauma and memories from their acting school. So they connected really well really quickly. Then we added Giedrius, which was a collaborator of mine in the previous three films, like two shorts and a feature I did. And he actually was a classmate of Agne. So that was a really good coincidence. So he came in, we worked before, but he already had chemistry with her. And then the last one was from the adults. The last one was very difficult because first, like in Lithuania, we don't have a tradition of bodily transformations. It usually doesn't work time wise and budget wise, and actors don't transform themselves into physical like fitness or like lose weight or anything like that. So it's I kind of thought that there's no actor who would physically resemble an MMA fighter and have the skills for that. So I casted some professional fighters, but in the end, when we had this four core group rehearsals, it was the last stage of casting, I realized that they don't gel. They are very natural, and when they're alone, and they're very good, interesting to watch, but when they're in a group, paradoxically, they kind of close up. There's no connection to anyone, and they look great and acted like, and they were fighters, but they didn't work. So, and it was kind of at like 3 months, I think, until the shoot, and I just had a like a Hail Mary, I think you say, and I just called my good friend. He's actually like a theater director now, but we used to work with him as an actor. and I said maybe you want to spend 3 months just intensely training and then just eating just boiled chicken and rice. And somehow he followed me up on this thing, and he said, okay, I will, because he is a really great actor, but he didn't look anywhere near what he looks in the film. So he trained a lot. He said that he really hated me for it, but somehow it was a challenge for him, it was something that I had. I got lucky that I got him in that moment. He was somehow in this mental space, and he spent a lot of time for this role. Yeah. So then when we had this because he gelled really quickly because he worked with Gelmine and he worked with Gedrus, and he's a really professional actor. He just didn't look like a fighter. And then he did, which
That he did. He looked the part. That's for damn sure. He looked the part.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then we added the two kids just
yeah.
to connect with the parents. We had a long casting, a lot of kids, and then we found the right ones for the parents.
Well, thank you for this film. Drowning Dry is just a superb film, wonderfully done. The acting is superb, everything about it. And you have been justly rewarded by the array of awards that this film has won in Europe, in the United States, wherever it's played, it has done exceptionally well in terms of the recognition. So for you, as a filmmaker moving forward, it's got to feel like you hit a home run on many levels, and hopefully this affords you opportunities that maybe you would not have had prior. I'm so happy for you as a filmmaker because this is just so well done, and truly, how do you feel moving forward with following your instincts, following your intuition to make this film?
I feel like it's like the awards and everything that comes after a film. I think it's something that gives you peace to sleep at night. Something that a job done. But then again, every new project is kind of a challenge, and now I'm taking a break a bit. Just because the first two films were kind of very intense for me, and the first one even hit way harder than this. For this, I was already prepared for some of this because awards are like a different thing. You feel that you have to be happy, but there's also a lot of pressure, especially like if you come from Lithuania. Like when I won with Pilgrims in Venice, it was the first award ever for any Lithuanian in any major festival. So it's kind of different than in the US, when you have a lot of filmmakers and you have a community of equals, and it's kind of hard coming back with it because I feel equal to all my filmmakers friends back at home, but somehow this puts you publicly on a different place that you're not comfortable with. You're comfortable among friends, among your colleagues working for film, because sometimes these awards put on different kind of pressure along on your colleagues, like how do you because everybody wants to work and everybody wants to create cinema, and sometimes this becomes a bit unbalanced. So I kind of had a process of dealing with that with my first film. So with this film, and also because Locarno was such a big occasion for all Lithuanian cinema, because I won and Saulė won, and it was a very one of a kind experience. Saulė Bluvaitė with Toxic. So yeah, so it was way more happier, and I was prepared for that. Yeah, but now I'm taking a break.
Well, take a break, take care of your family, and
Yeah.
all the things that people do, normal people, quote unquote, do. And I look forward to another conversation. I look forward to your work moving forward. Just a terrific film. So thank you. We've been talking with the director, writer, and cinematographer for the wonderful film Drowning Dry, Laurynas Bareiša.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar, and you can listen to previous interviews as well as special programming, or you can subscribe by going to Cinemaphile, that's F-I-L-E, with Mike Kaspar, at Spotify. Until next time, thank you for listening.